With the conclusion of one guessing game, Shohei Ohtani's chosen franchise as he begins his career in the United States, another commences. How many of you, from the start of the process, had the Los Angeles Angels as the victors? Not many, I'm sure. Now we begin the task of evaluating Ohtani's expectations in his first and, yes, subsequent years in the U.S., defining his fantasy value. He's the most prominent potential two-way player we've seen in this game in decades. But we've seen a variety outcomes from previous players making the leap from Japan to the MLB. Editors picks the challenge for the Angels. What comes next with Shohei Ohtani after weeks of wooing? Persuading Shohei Ohtani to sign might be the easy part. Now the Angels need to figure out how to sustain his success as a two-way star. Ohtani's success as both a starting pitcher and right fielder during a 5-year career in the Nippon Professional Baseball Organization fuels fantasy interest in him as both hitter and pitcher. To the question of eligibility, I've heard your many questions about it. ESPN will announce how he'll be used in our game on a later date. In terms of Ohtani's greater fantasy utility, expect it to come on the pitching side, where his role should be more assured and his skills more likely to translate across leagues. After all, Ohtani's career .252 ERA, 1.08 WHIP and 28.5% strikeout and 9.1% walk rates in 85 career games in the NPB pop off the page. Especially considering he pitched at a high level for 3 full seasons, plus the fraction of 2017 for which he was healthy. His numbers compared favorably to other Japanese-born pitchers who made the transition from the NPB to the major leagues. With one notable exception, he's one of the youngest players in history to make the jump. Assuming Ohtani makes his first big league start in April, he'll be the 5th youngest Japanese-born pitcher to make a start in the majors, behind Masanori Murakami, Junichi Tozawa, Max Suzuki and Tomo Oka. League translations from overseas can be tricky, due in part to the limited sample sizes of players making such moves and in part due to the difficulty adjusting to different rules, ballparks, roles and even equipment. The baseball itself is slightly smaller in NPB. Depending on who you ask, you might hear it competitively compared to as high as the major leagues, to a quadruple A, between AAA and the majors level, down to AAA ball. I lean towards the middle comparison, especially considering how many pitchers have made near immediate, effective transitions. One way to roughly quantify it is to extract the results of the 14 most prominent Japanese-born pitchers with sizable enough samples to come to the U.S. Simply using ERA, nothing too scientific. Here are their track records. Japanese-born pitchers in United States player U.S. debut ERA final 3. Japan years ERA Japan. Final year ERA U.S. Year 1 U Darvish 2012 1. 64-3, 63-3, 90 Kaigawa 2007 3, 53, 56-6, 25 Hideki Irabu 1997 2, 68-1, 44-7, 09 Kazuhi Saishi 2002 3, 48-2, 42-4, 27 Hasashi Iwakuma 2012 2, 87-3, 81-3, 16 Kenshin Kawakami 2009 2, 81-1, 27-3, 86 Hiroki Kuroda 2008 2, 86-2, 13-3, 73 Kent Maeda 2016 2, 26-7, 47-3, 48 Daisuke Matsuzaka 2007 2, 42, 44, 40 Hideo Nomo 1995 3, 29 2, 09 2, 54 Masahiro Tanaka 2014 1, 44 1, 51 2, 77 Koji Uehara 2009 3, 09 2. 34. 05 Tsuyoshi Wada 2014 2. 63 3. 39 3. 25 Masato Yoshi 1998 4. 73 2. 97 3. 93. It reveals a roughly 1 1/10 of a run increase in ERA in the first year in the U.S. compared their final 3-year average in Japan. To expand to other fantasy-relevant categories, their WHIP collectively rose roughly 0.15 in the first year. Strikeout rate dropped a little less than 2% and walk rate rose about 1.5%. Applying a similar adjustment to Ohtani, the result is roughly a 3.25 ERA, 1.10 WHIP and 29% strikeout rate. Numbers that would be outstanding and effectively a top 10 fantasy starting pitcher if he gets enough starts. Think 28 plus. However, considering that Ohtani was limited to just 5 starts for the Nippon Ham Fighters in 2017 due to ankle and hamstring injuries, has to deal with the league adjustment and will be doing so while attempting to do something that few players have attempted in the expansion era. Tempered expectations are wise. I think an innings cap around 150 frames is possible, and I'd worried that his walk rate might spike to 10%, threatening his WHIP ballooning towards 1, 2 or worse. You're buying Ohtani for his strikeout potential, and an average of 10.5 per 9 innings isn't an unrealistic expectation. On the high end, his 2018 numbers could resemble those of Robbie Ray in 2017, a season that earned Ray the No. 9 starting pitching spot on our player radar. On the low end, they might not be unlike those of Trevor Bauer, whose 2017 stats placed him 36th. It's for that reason that I'm slotting him as my No. 24 starter for now, in the same general range as Aaron Nola, 22nd, and Jose Berrios, 26th. As for Ohtani's bat, his 286, 358, 500 career rates in Japan are sure to capture your attention, especially in comparison to the awful numbers of most U.S. pitchers. There's little doubting his left-handed pop, and you can expect him to contribute more in terms of home runs than batting average initially. But 69.5% contact and 27.0% strikeout rate suggest a lengthier adjustment on that side of the game. He's probably going to be a streaky hitter, and he's also landing in a ballpark, Angels Stadium, that was 25th in terms of home run factors for lefties in 2017 and 24th over the past 5 years combined. A final note on Ohtani's likely streakiness. How he's used by the Angels might have a major say on his first-year fantasy impact with the bat. They're one of the American League teams with the least space for him at his natural positions, as their outfield is set between Justin Upton, Mike Trout and Cole Calhoun, and the designated hitter slot is occupied by Albert Pujols, who might not be able to handle first base on even a semi-regular basis at this stage of his career. If Ohtani gets only 2 or 3 lineup starts per week, and one is the game he's starting, he might be wildly inconsistent and a liability in head-to-head leagues. It's an answer we might not get until spring training. I'd guess he accrues about 250 plate appearances of 245, 315, 430 numbers, which could result in 8 to 10 home runs. Most fantasy owners are going to look at those numbers and react as if they're insultingly low. But I remind that we are always quick to assume the best-case scenarios with experiments such as this. Be realistic.